GoForThe2.com. This is our Week 6 breakdown of the marquee matchup in the SEC with the 5th-ranked Georgia Bulldogs traveling to Columbia, South Carolina to take on the 6th-ranked South Carolina Gamecocks. It's a great game. It's going to be a 7 o'clock start. It's on ESPN. We're going to break it down for you right now. Both teams are 5-0. Both teams are 3-0 in the SEC. The winner of this game will have a leg up in the SEC East. Florida's 3-0 as well. They take on LSU on Saturday. And so whoever wins this Georgia-South Carolina game will have a leg up going into Week 7 for the college football season in the SEC East. Let's break down Georgia right now. They are hitting on all cylinders. They picked up a 51-44 victory at home against Tennessee. They're averaging 48.2 points per game. That's good for 8th in the country. They're led by their junior quarterback, Aaron Murray. He's thrown for 1,370 yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He is a key reason why that offense is averaging 48 points per game. They're ranked 29th statistically in the passing game. Georgia is, and 11th in the country, led by their 2 freshmen, Todd Gurley and Keith Marshall. They're averaging 250 yards per game. So this is a very high potent offense. When you look at Georgia, they're battle tested. They had a couple of good games under their belt. They dismantled Vanderbilt 48-3 at home. They beat up on Missouri on the road, which is a very good road win in Missouri's first SEC game. They're battle-tested. When you look at Georgia's body of work over their 5 games, they are battle-tested heading into this game against South Carolina. From an offensive standpoint, Georgia's without their leading wide receiver, Michael Bennett. He's out with an ACL injury. He's out for the year. Senior Marlon Brown will step in and take his place. He's a big boy. He's 6'5". He does have game experience, and he'll add a big target for Aaron Murray in this game as well. We don't expect Georgia to miss a beat with Michael Bennett's departure from an ACL injury. Look for Tavares King to step up. He's a legitimate deep threat, and Georgia does have a significant advantage offensively against South Carolina. So that's a statistical matchup that we're looking at. Georgia has a lot of weapons for Mark Richt and Mike Bobo. They use multiple looks. They use the pro set, but they get both of those running backs involved, and that opens up play action passing for Aaron Murray, and they have a lot of options offensively. South Carolina is starting 2 sophomores on the defensive line, one of them being Clowney. He is an All-American, but he is only a sophomore. Keep that in mind. And 2 sophomores in the secondary. They're going up against a veteran offense led by junior quarterback Aaron Murray, so Georgia does have an advantage from an offensive standpoint against the defense for South Carolina. So keep that in mind heading into this game. Defensively for the Bulldogs, they did work in last week. Alec Ogletree and Bakari Rambo into the mix. Both of those, the linebacker, Ogletree and Rambo, the safety, were off on suspension. They were worked back in last week in the win versus Tennessee. Head coach Mark Richt and defensive coordinator Todd Grantham got their feet wet last week, and that's going to be a significant advantage for Georgia heading into this game. When you look at Georgia's defense, they're led by their 3 senior defensive linemen, John Jenkins, Avery Jones, and Cornelius Washington, and they have 3 seniors in the secondary with Rambo, Sean Williams, and Brandon Smith. They do have a legitimate advantage defensively over South Carolina. South Carolina is starting 3 sophomores on the offensive line. Their left tackle, their right tackle, and their left guard are all sophomores. They're going up against a veteran defensive front in Georgia. When you look at South Carolina, their body of work, they're 5-0, but they struggled their first week against Vanderbilt 17-13. They struggled last week on the road at Kentucky in Lexington. They were down 17-7 on the road before picking up the victory in the second half. Lattimore and Connor Shaw stepped up and they pulled away in the second half of that game, but they were trailing on the road against Kentucky. So how good is South Carolina? They faced East Carolina, UAB, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Missouri, they beat 31-10, but that was after Missouri was beaten up by Georgia at home. So you have to look at that victory at home. How good was Missouri? James Franklin was banged up. So how good is South Carolina's body of work heading into this game? Are they a legitimate number 6 in the country? We're not sold at this point. We think Georgia does hold a little bit of an edge defensively heading into this game. So when you look at South Carolina, Connor Shaw, he has progressed. He's had a couple of really good games. He was 20 of 21 against Missouri. He hit 20 straight passes. Last week he was 15 of 18 against a very subpar Kentucky defense. He's going to be going up against a very experienced defensive front and a very experienced defensive secondary. And Connor Shaw does have statistically completed 78% of his passes, but to date he was only 50 of 64. So Connor Shaw still a little raw heading into this game against Georgia. He's going to need to step it up, and so is Marcus Lattimore. Marcus Lattimore rushed for 120 yards last week. That's his season high. He rushed for 110 week 1 against Vanderbilt. The following 3 weeks he was subpar, his high only rushing for about 85 yards. So he stepped it up last week. He rushed for 120 yards in the win against Kentucky, but he's only averaging 4.8 yards per rush. So when you look at the offense for South Carolina and Steve Spurrier, they're going to have to open things up a little bit. They cannot play ball control against Georgia. Georgia has way too much offense. They're going to have to try and get into a high-scoring game a la the way Tennessee did last week. Whether they can do that, I'm not so sure. There's wideouts are both small. Two of their wideouts, Ace Sanders and Bruce Ellington, are only 5'8". They're going up against a very physical secondary led by Bakari Rambo and those two other seniors. So that's going to be an advantage for Georgia heading into this game as well. Defensively for South Carolina, they're starting 2 sophomores in the secondary. They're going to have to force the running game of Georgia. They're going to have to try and force Aaron Murray into becoming one-dimensional, because if Georgia's able to run the football, that will open up the play-action passing game, and South Carolina will be in a lot of trouble heading into this game. They're going to have to put 8 in the box and force Aaron Murray to force those wideouts with King and Marlon Brown to step up and make plays, because if Georgia's able to run the ball against South Carolina's defensive front, it's going to be a long day for the Gamecocks. When you break this game down, I think that Georgia's defense is the reason why Georgia will win this game, and I think that the junior leadership of Aaron Murray, the way he's come along, they're battle-tested. He's picked up some road victories. They've looked very impressive, Georgia has. They are averaging 48.2 points per game. It's a lot of puts a lot of pressure on that South Carolina defense to step up and make plays. I don't think it can happen. I think Georgia picks up a dominating victory, a very good road win. I believe that Georgia picks up a 28-21 victory on the road, moves to 6-0, and I think Aaron Murray has to be considered, if he performs well in this game, has to be considered a front runner for the Heisman should Georgia win and move to 6-0. But I think that Georgia picks up a dominating victory, 28-21, too much offense and too much defense for the Bulldogs going up against Steve Spurrier and South Carolina. Stay with us. We're going to break down every game. We're going to watch it this weekend. There's a great matchups in the SEC. LSU taking on Florida. We'll have a breakdown for that. So stay with us at GoForThe2.com.